Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to us. Welcome to another episode of the Down to the Valley podcast. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I am still depressed for Daniel Suarez getting eliminated from the NASCAR playoffs. But that's for another completely different program. We are here to talk about RGV FC, and boy, do we have a lot of great news to talk to you about the Toros today. Obviously, we're going to be talking about the game against Phoenix Rising. We're going to be talking about, the games that we talked that were played yesterday that were beneficial for RGV's quest to achieve back-to-back playoffs in back-to-back years. We're going to be talking about, the surprise of the trading cards. We'll talk as well about some reactions from the players, and of course, we are going to be giving our predictions of the upcoming match between RGVFC and Monterey Bay FC Union, which is the regular season finale at HEB Park. As it said in the title, all the cards are falling into place. And Jacob will be joining us momentarily. He's been having a little bit of issues, but he should be back to talk with us about the Toros. So, how's everybody doing in the chat over there? Obviously, it is Thursday, almost Friday, and I'm very very excited for this upcoming game. So RGVFC, as I mentioned right now, last Saturday RGVFC played Phoenix Rising in a match that was a do or die for the Rising, because our RGVFC needed Phoenix Rising needed to win in order to maintain their playoff hopes alive. And so they were going to come in, as I mentioned in the post game reactions, they were going to come in with, they're going to take risks. They were going to go all out. They were going to be very aggressive, uh, trying to get a positive result, not just any positive result, a win from HEB Park against the Toros. And RGVFC, they played a little bit more cautious. Um, Obviously, the Toros, we're talking all this time about how great the defense is for RGVFC lately. The biggest surprise, though, was seeing that once again, Eric Pimentel did not start the game. Instead, Frank Nodarse was going to take the honors of starting out there in the back line. I say we got it looked like, according to the USL, a back line of five with obviously Tyler Derrick on goal. You've got Wahab Akwe, Frank Nadarse, Jonathan Ricketts, Akeem O'Connor Ward, and Juan David Cabezas is playing as that third center back for that line of five. Then you had an apparent line of four with Jonas Fieldberg, with Emilio Vicasa, Juan Pablo Torres, and Christian Pinzon, and of course, Ricky Reese. So RGV in the first half, they pretty much held Phoenix Rising for the. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. My throat is really dry today. Anyway, so RGBFC, they limited Phoenix Rising's chances, especially in the first half. It seemed like the Toros were a whole lot more comfortable. They had some clear opportunities on goal. I know Christian Pinzon, or it was either Christian Pinzon or Ricky Reese, had one in the first opening minutes of the match, where he went one on one with the keeper, and but Lund was able to get a touch on that ball, to clear that ball away from the net and avoid it going into goal. Um, Honestly, if you look at the shot statistics in the first half, you see that For the most part, Phoenix Rising did not have comfortable shots. Number one, they didn't have a lot of shots, period. And number two, those shots that they did make, which were four, they were all in awkward positions, outside the box, out towards the side. There really wasn't a opportunities in the first half where Phoenix Rising had a clear shot right in front of goal that could have probably make Tyler Derrick, work a little bit. It was mostly RGVFC that had the dominion, that had the possession. They were out there looking, for those opportunities to get that ball into the back of the net. And as I say that, let's go ahead and hopefully welcome Jacob into the show, because, but that's how you know we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Man, this is gonna take a lot of editing. I can assure you that, guys. But Jacob, welcome, man. How's it going?
It's going. It's definitely going much better than it was 3 minutes ago. So I'm happy about that. Happy to find the issue to my computer. Turns out it was just a loose cord. Apparently, I didn't push it in good enough, which is just the way that computers are sometimes, which really just stinks. But yeah, no. Looking forward to this show, man. There's so much to talk about, and oh man, I am legitimately counting down the hours. Yesterday, I looked at my phone, looked up what day it was for Saturday, and how many hours were left. It was 65 hours left at that point. So counting down the days till kickoff. It's going to be exciting.
I know. As like I was saying a little while ago, it's like it's got to be one of the most one of the biggest games I'm looking forward to. I think the only one that was probably a little bit more exciting was obviously the last year's game against Phoenix Rising in the playoffs. But other than that, I think this one, just the fact that if we win, we go back to back, playoffs for RG, which has never happened in the history of RGVFC. If you guys remember, 2016 was the inaugural season. Wilmer Cabrera gets us into playoffs. Then in that offseason, Houston Dynamo hires him as the head coach of the first team. And so then he gets replaced by Junior Gonzalez. And yeah, let's just say that was the beginning of a downhill battle from there. But
exactly.
Yeah. So, but don't worry, man. I also had a couple of issues. For some reason, Restream.io wasn't connecting. So today I'm only broadcasting to YouTube, unfortunately, directly to YouTube. So I don't know if it's something on their end. I know it's not something on my end because I'm able to stream right now. But anyway, let's continue on. I do want to get look a little bit in the chat. Shadow, our friend from Germany, he says it's nearly 3:45 a.m. I should go to bed, but I wanted to say hi to you, Jacob, and the guys of the Stampede, and the secret lover of RGV, Harry of SAFC. So Monterrey. So he also says Monterrey is a bit unsteady this season. In their last 5 games, they conceded at least 2 goals in 4 of them. We shouldn't underestimate them, but we should win. And then it says Phoenix could get back on track since losing Flemings or Asante. Hurst and his forwards aren't quite as equal, so I had hopes that we'd win, and we did. And we'll talk about this right now. Now that we're talking about that particular game, and we'll also get back to you, Abraham. Once we get to the Quema or No Quema segment. But anyway, so RGVFC, as I was mentioning, Jacob, it seems for this game, you knew that Phoenix Rising was going to come in aggressive. They were going to come in playing lights out because their life was on the line. Their chance of trying to achieve playoffs was on the line. It was going to be almost impossible because obviously they I think they could only get up to like 46 at the time or any something like that. But they had to be hopeful that neither Oakland nor us nor El Paso scored more points. If not, that would have been eliminated anyway. But when you still have a chance, you still have to fight for it. So they were going to come in aggressive. They had everything to, they had nothing to lose and everything to win. And it looks like Wilmer Cabrera, if you see his lineup. This time he played it with a line of five with Juan David Cabezas playing, that third center back. A little bit on paper, I was gonna say this. On paper, it looks conservative, but what we saw on the field in the first half was far from conservative, despite playing against the Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, most definitely. It was an interesting line of five for sure. Like you said, we don't necessarily get to see that too often, or when we do, we're mostly on the road sometimes. Wilmer Cabrera going conservative for sure, but he was smart to bring out that line of five because he knew what Phoenix were going to try to do, which was to go aggressive as can be. So he wanted to protect the back line to make sure that RGVFC, just in case, could get some counterattack. And I can always tell sometimes when, especially Wilmer is kind of going for that, we might not get all the possession possible, but we're going to take advantage of that with opportunities in going on that counterattack and having space with Fieldberg and just everyone in that box to get that goal, to get a key moment of the game for sure. So I was happy with the lineup. I saw that lineup and wasn't thinking too poorly of it for sure. I saw it. I was like, not surprising. We are going for a win. This is good. This is what we kind of asked for last game, and made it more clear of why he did what he did last Wednesday too.
Yeah, and so you mentioned, right, that you look at this lineup and we're like, okay, this is fine, because a couple weeks ago we seen Odarce and we're like, holy hell, what the hell is Wilmer Cabrera doing, putting him in the lineup? But I think that with the improvements that we have seen from Nodarce, he's kind of risen from that. Get this guy out of here. To, hey, this might be a good piece, for the future, because he's holding it up back there alongside Wahabakwe, and so I was telling right now before you came in, Jacob, and I don't know if you noticed this, but this is pretty surprising that RGV FC held Phoenix Rising in the first half to only 4 shots. Only one of them was on target, but here's the interesting part, Jacob. All of those shots in the first half were in awkward angles. Like, they weren't clear, simple angles, like right in front of Tyler Derrick to put him in danger or anything. Like, the defense was able to hold down, the box, where they had to try to shoot from the outside, or they had to try to shoot out there from the wings, because in front of goal, they just weren't able to penetrate that back line in order to do so.
For sure. Yeah, it was. I mean, that's how much credit you can give to RGVFC, being able to just force Phoenix, a well-known team, to be able to control that possession and control the shots on target and hold them against that, was just absolutely perfect. It's something that, well, we're starting to see more from RGVFC, but when we don't see that, normally RGVFC, they're struggling. They're struggling on the pitch in general. So it was a good deal. And for RGVFC, especially, even in that first half, yes, there weren't a lot of fouls, but for not to let Phoenix get under their skin, because that's a team that can always do that to any of their opponents.
So I want to go look back at what Shadow told us right now in the chat, where he's talking about how since Solomon Asante and Flemings left the team, the offensive power that really characterized Phoenix Rising for many seasons before this year, it just didn't show up this year. Even, I don't know if you remember the game we played Phoenix over there at Wild Horse Pass, Jacob. One of the things I mentioned was, let's be glad that Santi Moar is in a horrible slump this year, because any other year prior, he would have scored those 2, 3 opportunities that he had. And really, Shadow says, nobody else has stepped up. Neither Hurst, neither Santi Moar, and neither Arturo Rodriguez. Like in this game, Arturo Rodriguez, which was one of the players that when he came in the game we played over there in Phoenix, kind of made the difference to open up the spaces for Phoenix on RGV FC's defense. He wasn't able to do that in this game. He neither was I want to say Adon Quinn either. You know, it was just a frustrating game for Phoenix Rising. On the other hand, flipping the coin, RGVFC had plenty of opportunities, had plenty of shots on goal. I'm looking here in the count. They had 10 shots in the first half. That's a lot of shots. And out of those 10, only 2 of them were off target. So a lot of them were blocked. Yeah, some right in front of goal, like by the penalty spot. But the thing of the matter is that this team, the Toros, were able to kind of penetrate Phoenix Rising, which we knew because we had mentioned that Phoenix Rising really hasn't been the greatest defense this season either. So I know that the players, I know Fjellberg mentioned that he was kind of frustrated that they weren't able to penetrate the goals and score as many goals as they probably would have wanted to. But just the fact that they are creating these chances and that those shots are going into the target or they're going to target, that shows that, as long as you keep persevering, one of them is bound to go in. And eventually it did. 39th minute, Jonas Fjellberg scores the opening goal for RGV FC. And it was really a beauty of a goal.
It was a beautiful goal, and just like you talked about it, one of those goals had to go in for sure. You put it all on the money. As long as it's not right at the keeper, as long as you're making the keeper work, you're doing something right as an offensive player, that being a number 9, that being a striker, winger, whatever. If you're in that box having an opportunity to score and the keeper saves it due to just, I don't know, him being a great sweeper keeper for that game, okay, you're doing something right. Just put one of those in the back of the net. They'll slip up eventually. They're human, just like any defense would slip up as well, whether they're RGVFC, whoever. But yeah, it was very well struck on that play. I kid you not, I saw the replay at the stadium, but I was too nervous at the time as well. This is what I do when I'm at the game. I am scrolling through Twitter. I am looking at some other app as the game's kind of going on, a little bit of dead moments. I'm watching the game too, but at the same time, I got to be on my phone because I'm going to lose it if I'm not. And of course, I'm media, so I got to stay calmer than a regular fan. It's one of those situations for me. So yeah, I caught the replay, beautiful goal, but yeah, I couldn't have been more nervous for that ball to go into the back of the net and for us to be leading 1-0 in such a crucial time before halftime.
Oh yeah, I was kind of in a similar position. I don't know if you saw me, dude. Yeah, like the times where I wasn't talking to the other reporters that were there, was talking to you. I was like pacing back and forth and like really nervous because I know that Phoenix Rising, at the end of the day, it's Phoenix Rising, and they're gonna come out with something like out of the bag to be able to punish you when you make a mistake. And so now I do want to talk a little bit about that goal, because this goal really harkened back to that first game that we played at Wild Horse Pass, in the fact that this whole play started because Phoenix Rising lost the ball in transition, thanks to the high pressure that we always talk about, that Wilmer Cabrera likes to be able to execute on the opposing teams. So I believe that was Frank Nadarce. Yeah, that's Frank Nadarce, all the way in, past the midfield line, goes up to pressure Phoenix, wins the possession of the ball, and so then Pinzon gets it, passes the ball over to Fielberg, or it was Juan Pablo Torres actually, to who sends it to Fielberg, and Fielberg, with two players with him, he sends the low driven shot towards the far post, and Lund was not able to even um, react to that shot. So all in all, it was an amazing goal. I felt a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, like I felt a little bit of stress kind of leaving my body, but I knew in the back of my mind that at the end of the day, Phoenix Rising is Phoenix Rising. So halftime comes along, and then right after we come back from halftime in the 48th minute, Phoenix Rising equalizes. And there I was like, oh my God, it's going to be one of those games, isn't it? Where uh, RGV FC was going to be losing the momentum and Phoenix Rising was going to take advantage of it, because right after the goal, Phoenix Rising had more of the ball and had more had some other clear opportunities to score. So on there, I was like, man, like this is I honestly thought that Phoenix Rising was gonna get away with it, especially with the fact that you already scored, you already smelled blood, you already got the worst, the hardest part done, which was score one on the Toros. And it's like just continue to push and hope that you can score another one. So that's where I was like really, really, really nervous. But this whole, like I mentioned at the post game reactions video, this whole play started because Wahab Akwe tried to do the same thing that Nodarse did in trying to take the ball away in in transition away from Phoenix. However, this time Wahab Akwe didn't get there in time, so he fouls. The referee calls the advantage, and so what ends up happening is because you weren't able to take the ball away, or you weren't able to delay Phoenix Rising's possession of the ball so that way they maintain themselves in their side of the field, you left a big space wide open in the back. And of course, Gabriel Torres was able to take advantage of that to score the equalizing goal.
Exactly. We all talked about it in the post game show after the game. You and I, Edson, and you brought up great points. It is true. It's just Wahabakwe too eager, goes up and misses the ball, and that allows for a break. That allows for a sort of counterattack. Is how I like to put those, because they just had so much more space, and it was pass beautiful. And Derek does all he can to try and block the edge and tries to get a finger off of it. Couldn't do that in the back of the net, and it's obviously it's so difficult to score a goal here in RGV, especially if you're from Phoenix. Yes, Phoenix are used to hot weather, but it was a gorgeous evening, so really that was tossed out of the way. But I mean, you're coming off of a flight, you're coming off of just travel in general, and Phoenix are able to score that goal and get back into that one. And that's the scariest thing. You and I were both, back in that same spot, and we were near the bench warmers, the reserves. They were doing their drills, watching the game as much as possible. When it scored, it brought a whole new sense of not urgency, but basically
It motivated them.
Yeah, exactly. It motivated them. It heightened them. That's what I was trying to get to. And you don't want that as a team, for sure. And luckily enough, RGVSC knew there's still one goal. We still want that win. We still know that we are capable of getting that. And that's how it felt to me too, is we didn't feel down and out because there was still plenty of time. But you and I both knew RGVSC cannot allow the Phoenix Rising to have so much possession like that and to scare us every single play. Because I believe that that's where really Phoenix found most of that momentum and found the shots on target was in that second half.
Yeah. So I mentioned that in the first half, RGV had 10 shots. Four of them were Phoenix. In the second half, RGV had 5 shots. Only one of them was on target, which was the goal. Other than that, it was like very few opportunities, and the ones that they had, they weren't comfortable enough to actually get them on target, right? Whereas Phoenix, I believe they had maybe like 7. They had 7 shots in the second half, 3 of them on target, including the penalty that was missed, which we'll get into it in a little bit. But that was the most frustrating thing, Jacob, is that as the second half went on and you started to seeing Phoenix Rising gaining that momentum, RGVFC kind of struggling to be able to even get an opportunity on goal, right? Then all of a sudden, Fielber comes in the in the 55th minute, and I remember that play because Pinzon carried the ball, I think, from like the midfield all the way over to the outside of the box. So he cuts in, and where everybody was expecting him to take the shot from outside the box, but instead what he does is he ends up running back and passing the ball to I wonder who was that? Was that Juan Pablo Torres as well? Yeah, to Juan Pablo Torres again, and then he opens it up wide for Jonas. Now, remember, in the first half, the goal he scored it with his right foot. In this goal, he cuts in towards his left foot. I was like, oh no, he just limited himself. Like, I wasn't expecting him to even take the shot. And so when he takes the shot, once again, this one was a little bit more curved, but it also goes towards the far post. And once again, Lund was unable to react in order to get a touch on it. But that's the thing about these kind of players. These are the kind of players that whenever things aren't looking right, whenever like you're seeing that there's not a lot of opportunities to get yourself a chance in front of goal, is like these players, they'll come up with it like right out of thin air almost, and get yourself an opportunity to score a goal. And so from then on, you saw RGVFC just trying to contain Phoenix Rising. They did have some opportunities later that, like I said, went off target. But when things got really dicey was around the 74th minute, because that was the moment when Babukar Jai receives the ball. So the thing about Babukar Jai is like, we know that he's fast, we know that he's strong. However, for most of the game, Jonathan Ricketts had his number. Really, Babukar wasn't able to do a lot out there on that wing as much as he tried. They were able to contain him. Now, in this play, Babukar was able to get past Jonathan Ricketts and dribble towards the box, right? Jonathan Ricketts, he does, obviously there's a pull. It's a small tug, but it's a pull on the shirt and on the shoulder nonetheless, right? So that's still going to be a foul. So there's no question about whether there was a foul or not. There was a foul. The question was it outside or was it inside? Like the referee, by the way, took forever to even make a decision to see if he was going to call the foul or not. And when he did, he messed up and calls it inside. When the foul started outside the box and should have been a free kick. And so that gives a free penalty kick for Phoenix Rising. And there, I think the whole stadium, like you could, like the tension was so thick, you could cut it with a knife, because you knew that this was the way that the second half was going, where RGV wasn't having opportunities. And you felt like, man, if they tie us, it's going to be difficult to be able to even go back and get some more opportunities, especially with the fact that Fjellberg was actually subbed out. He was actually subbed out back in the 65th minute. So you lost your goal guy. The guy who scored you the 2 goals, he was out of the game, right? You brought in Eric Pimentel into the match to kind of play a little bit even more conservatively. And so now Adon Quinn has an opportunity to equalize it for Phoenix.
It was, I mean, yes, it's a foul. And the referee just wanted to make it dramatic. Let's be real. Because the way that he just waited and then he was like, bah, basically, almost like that. He went and pointed to the spot, which, yes, again, it was not, like, barely. We're talking inches away from it not being a penalty, but referee calling it a penalty. So bang bang play, he calls it a penalty. They don't talk it over and put it back over there. Either way, it frustrating part, but it is so true. Phoenix Rising get another goal. I don't see how RGV FC win this game. I don't. I see how it could be a draw or Phoenix Rising stealing 3 points and all of a sudden they're still in this fight for at least that time being until Wednesday. Yeah, it was absolutely a crazy decision. Frustrating that we made that foul in general, but turns out it saved us. I know you wanted to get to that, but I can't hold it any longer because we all know the save that was a great save that I stupidly did not press record on my phone when I thought I pressed record on it, or else I'd have that penalty save by Tyler Derrick zoomed in off of my Samsung phone.
Yeah, I honestly see here's the thing, dude. It had been a long time since Tyler Derrick had even saved a penalty. I want to say either they mentioned it in the broadcast or JT told us that it was the first save since his debut. I think that Tyler Derrick had saved a penalty. So I was really nervous, because when Tyler Derrick has been good, but historically he wasn't known to be a penalty stopper. And Adon Quinn is one of those players where you never think that he's going to miss a penalty like that, right? So Adon Quinn takes it. Tyler Derrick is able to guess the direction of the goal, gets a hand on it, and of course makes the save for RGVFC to continue to be in the lead. RGVFC, as the minutes went on, they continued to kind of contain. They continued to kind of manage the time, get Phoenix Rising desperate to the point that Hurst, the coward of Hurst, in his desperation, blatantly kicks Tyler Derrick in the head, earning himself a well-deserved red card, the boo of all the fans. And at the end, RGV holds on, gets a 2-1 victory that gets him even closer to the playoffs. And so obviously the motivation is high within the team. Wilmer Cabrera talked about, this is the kind of matches that show that this team it deserves the playoffs. Obviously, también Tyler Derrick talked about, hard work getting them to where they were at. And I have to be honest, dude, I didn't think we were going to get to this point. And look, here we are. We are 90 minutes away from being able to make it to the playoffs. It's incredible how in a span of weeks, the Toros turned this ship around. And I want to say they're one of the dark horses in this Western Conference.
Yeah, exactly. And even real quick, going back to that, the red card by Phoenix Rising, kudos and shout out to the production team of RGVFC, because this is the way that replays are supposed to be. We're not supposed to, a league should never not disallow replays to be shown. by the way. That is what is supposed to happen. After something bad like that happens and you feel like you've been screwed over, this time, of course, RGVFC got that red card and rightfully so. To replay it over and over again and get the crowd more and more and more PO'd at that player. No joke. That is perfect production teamwork by far. The best I've ever seen at this place. It was phenomenal. Reminded me of like back when I was at Kyle Field and other games like that. You showed in slow motion. I hope the next goal that RGVFC score on the final game is shown in replay instead of just going to that Toro logo. Come on. But past that now, yeah, it's no one thought. Nobody thought that this was going to be where RGVFC are. A chance at not only to make the playoffs, but a chance at 5th place, which means if everything were to go right, RGVFC win their first round game, which would be on the road. The second round, if let's say 6th place magically wins their matchup against number 2. Guess who's hosting the second round of the playoffs in their second time ever making the playoffs? Second time in a row for the first time ever making the playoffs back-to-back years.
Okay,
RGVFC.
So, I don't think they're
5v2 would be it's 5v4. And then the second round, we wouldn't play the number 1 seed. That would be whoever is 7v2, if I'm not mistaken.
So it all depends. It all depends on who makes it to the next round. But
exactly.
Yes,
they'd have a chance. They'd have a chance. It's a huge thing, though. It's huge. RGVFC all of a sudden have a chance for 5th after being dead last a month ago, 2 months ago.
They do. I'll have to go back on it to see what kind of combinations would be required for RGV to host a playoff match. But I think right now, like I said, there's still some variables that have yet to be discussed, and you guys can watch the video that I uploaded this morning about talking about what are the combinations required for RGVFC to make it to the playoffs. We have as far as position inside the top 7, like Jacob mentioned, we can still make it to 5th, but it's going to require New Mexico to lose. And outside of that, obviously the Toros have to win. So you win, you're in, and if you draw, you're in, because of head-to-head between Oakland and Las Vegas Lights, So here's the thing. And you want a quick recap. Like I said, winning you're in, drawing you're in, because even if Las Vegas Lights would have 44 points right now, which would jump them to 47, they have a head-to-head disadvantage against us, right? So we would be ahead. We'd be 7th, or I believe so. Also depending on what Oakland Roots does, right? So, but if you lose, you have to hope that Las Vegas doesn't win. I mean, out of all the possibilities, most of them favor the Toros. A huge majority favor the Toros to make it to the playoffs. But you always have to be considerate of that small percentage that could happen, because remember, this is the USL. This is soccer. Anything can happen. Anybody can beat anybody at the end of the day. Like Wilmer said today, yes, they are eliminated. That doesn't make them any less dangerous. In fact, we have to respect them because they are a team that they closed the end of the season relatively well, much better than when they started this season. And you have to remember that Monterrey had a terrible start of the season. But he said they lost last night, but that doesn't mean that they're going to come with a bad mentality. is that they're going to try to close the season with a good win to get some momentum for next season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we need to
those are
respect that. So we need to respect that. We need to be careful because for us, it means the possibility to qualify to the playoffs. But we haven't done it yet, so we need to be careful, respectful, but we cannot be afraid.
yeah, and I think that's Wilmer and everybody else's mentality is nothing else is on the table, just a win for sure. And yes, you cannot take this team for granted. You cannot take Monterey for granted, just like you did not take Charleston Battery for granted too. That was a humongous win, considering that team had nothing to play for. And yes, we've been playing a couple of teams that barely have had anything to play for and luckily have escaped with wins. And yes, the only team really was Memphis 901, who still had something to play for I believe that time being, and then ended up getting, I think, the 2 seed for sure. If I'm not mistaken, it's something like that. They were really just fighting for the 1 seed and got the 2 seed in the East. So with all that being said, it's there's no way Wilmer is telling them, oh, if we do this, we can do this, because I think even in the presser, if I'm not mistaken, not quoting him for sure, but he said that's when, or players even said, that's when we lose our minds, kind of. That's when we lose everything that we're trying for, which is
He meant
get the win.
They mentioned something about if we start focusing too much on what the others do, then we kind of forget what we need to do.
Exactly.
And I think this is a point. At this point, RGV controls their destiny.
Yep.
So why not end the season with full control of your destiny with the win? Because you get the win, you get the top spot, and you're gonna try and fight pending the result of New Mexico, like I mentioned, to make it to 5th and possibly play against a weaker team compared to, like, let's say if you were playing against the 3rd place or 2nd place in the Western Conference in the playoffs. So there's still a lot that the Toros can do. They have the team to do it, and I think they have shown the maturity and the concentration so far to be able to get the job done on Saturday against Monterey Bay FC. And so now looking forward to that, Jacob. We already talked about Phoenix. We already talked about what the combinations are to be able to make it to the playoffs. Now let's give our predictions on what's going to happen, this Saturday. Obviously, we have to take care of players like Sam Gleadle. They do have James Murphy as well, a former RGV FC player. Who else? No, because he's with San Diego Loyal. But they have, I think, maybe like 2 former RGVSC players on their roster, and dangerous players too as well. So, what's your prediction for this match?
Prediction for this match. Man, I don't even want to make a prediction. RGVFC win. They're gonna. This isn't even a bold prediction to me, even though it's gonna sound bold. They're going to end up. It's gonna be like the El Paso Locomotive game last year when we finished off the season, and we're gonna win it 3-1, 3-1. No shutout, but we're gonna win.
I'm gonna go with the 2-1 again.
All right.
Because number one, for some reason, somehow I was able to guess it right. But number two, I do think that overall, Monterey Bay is they're, like I said, they're playing for a contract next season as well. For some of these players. So they're gonna try. As Wilmer said, to finish the game on a high note. This isn't the same Monterey Bay that we played them in the beginning of the season. They're a lot stronger. They kind of a little bit more. They kind of know more the tactic that their coach wants to instill on them, and so I think a 2-1. I mean, it's gonna be sufficient. It's the 3 points, and now it's gonna be a waiting game to see what happens between New Mexico and who are they playing? I want to say, um, I think New Mexico. Are they playing LA Galaxy? Let me double check. They're playing Colorado. That's going to be interesting. It's not going to be easy for New Mexico. So let's put that consideration. Okay. So let's say New Mexico and Colorado draw.
Yep.
Okay. Which means that New Mexico will stay at 49. Let's say RGV FC wins. They jump to 49. Guess who gets the 5th place?
I believe it's RGV FC because of a draw on the road. Even though we did lose to them, we ended up beating them at home. If I do recall.
Yes and no. We do get the advantage in the head-to-head. But remember, we lost 1-0 at their home.
Yep.
Then we drew 1-1 at their home, and then we beat them 3-1 here. Yeah. So remember the second.
Now it's goal differential.
No. Okay, hold on.
Okay, never mind.
So yes and no. Yes, no, you're good. Yes and no. Because so the first tier of tiebreakers in the USL Championship is head-to-head points. Right? If there's an equal amount of points that were gotten by each team against each other, then you go to goal differential in the head-to-head. And that's where RGV gets the advantage of the +1 compared to the -1 of New Mexico United. So, like I said, the cards are falling in the table for RGVFC to get decent position in the playoffs, but they need to do their part. Everything else, it's gonna come. If New Mexico loses, that's great. That's amazing, right? But at the end of the day, it'll all come to naught if RGV loses against Monterrey. So the team cannot go into this match thinking that they're already in the playoffs. And I think Wilmer has kind of set the standard today in his quotes from media. We need to respect them, and we are not in the playoffs yet. We need to go into the mentality that we're still trying to fight, which basically they are. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Bold predictions, Jacob.
Bold prediction. We're going to get the cold front early, Edson, which means we're going to get some rain. I know it's been 3 weeks. I've been so close on each week for saying this bold prediction. But I can tell you this bold prediction might come true because we all know that there might be some rain.
Okay.
Either way, it's going to be muddy. And the perfect thing is RGVFC are going. The rain's going to help both teams. Let me be clear. No one's going to get a suspension. But 9 goals combined. 5-4 RGVFC won.
Oh, damn, son. That's bold right there. I was just gonna go with a 5-0, but this guy is like giving a slimmer of hope to Monterey Bay. Now I love that. I think that's a really, really good bold prediction. I was thinking about my 5-0 bold prediction. Honestly, because we know that RGV has the firepower. They've kind of been a little bit lackluster. I mean, they're like I mentioned, they're getting the opportunities, but they've been getting their shots blocked, or they kind of had a little bit more shots off target. But the possibility is there for them to come in at 100%, all guns blazing, like they did against New Mexico United, and get a bunch of goals into the back of the net and send Monterey Bay FC packing to watch the playoffs on TV. So now, I know you brought this up, Jacob, because Code Awesome asked in the chat, if they make it to the playoffs, will they play any games at home? let's see if we can identify that really
So
quick.
is it the same structure as MLS? Because if it is, then we really won't. If it's the same structure, and if RGVFC were to get fifth, the only chance that they would have to host a game is if they were to get sixth and win their first game and hope that the 7 seed beats the 2 seed. At least that's for the second round. RGVFC would play at Toyota Field, and I think that would be the closest if they were to win their first game as a 5 seed. If it's like MLS, that's what it looks like.
So let me see if I can get the bracket.
All right, because it might be the
So,
same as the MLS Cup. Because LAFC get the bye in MLS, and then it would be West 4 versus 4 or 5 for the second round. So if it's like that, then RGVFC are kind of screwed. Because I doubt they would want the 2 seed playing against a 1 seed in the first round, or in the second round, I mean.
So it says that the bracket is reseeded following the conference quarterfinals to make sure that the first overall seed in each conference placed against the lowest seeded remaining opponent.
Oh, let's go. So maybe.
what that means is that let's assume that obviously San Antonio is going to get the bye. Let's assume that San Diego gets eliminated, Colorado gets eliminated, and Sacramento gets eliminated, which leaves RGV in hypothetical fifth, right? If we're playing in fifth.
Yes.
6 would be, let's say, Oakland Roots, and 7th, New Mexico United. Well, you can switch them back and forth, 6th and 7th, right? But 5th, RGV. If that were to happen, RGV would get to host a playoff game because they are they would be the second highest seeded team in the four teams remaining in the playoffs. So in this hypothetical scenario where it's San Antonio, RGV, Oakland, and New Mexico, RGV would be hosting Oakland Roots here in the semifinal, in the Western Conference semifinal. That's the only way. If we make it to 5th, that's the only way for RGVFC to potentially host a playoff spot, a playoff game. Mm-hmm. If RGV doesn't get to 6th, there is no way. There is no way that RGV will be able to host a playoff.
5th. I believe you just said 6.
No, if they get 6th, they can't.
Yeah, if they get
or 7th. If they get 5th, there's a possibility that they can, but all the top teams, not including San Antonio, above them would have to get eliminated by Oakland, New Mexico, and the Toros, obviously, which is doable. But so to answer your question, Code Awesome, yes, there is a possibility now that we're seeing that particular scenario. So I didn't want to believe you, Jacob, but I guess it is true. So let's maintain the hope that that scenario does play out, but we'll see what happens from here on out. Jacob, any final thoughts before we go?
Final thoughts now, I guess, is real quick. Let me refresh this. 45 hours, 57 more minutes until we are at least at the stadium and getting ready for the RGVFC Toros final home match of the regular season. I'm excited. What a roller coaster of a season. And if RGVFC miss the playoffs, this will be more depressing if we were already eliminated. That's my final thoughts. We'll see what happens. We'll know that this team will play it all out on the line.
So now that you bring that up, I honestly, for me, if the Toros do get eliminated, it's gonna depend a lot on how the Toros played. Because if they play crap, if they play like, their feet dragging on the ground, then yeah, questions are gonna have to be answered, right? But if you play until the end and you continue fighting and it somehow didn't happen, okay, we understand. Like
Yep.
It is gonna hurt a little, right? But at least they tried.
Yep.
Hopefully we don't get to that point, but we'll see what happens on Saturday.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Wilmer Cabrera for winning September's Coach of the Month. And guys, that's gonna be it for this week. Be sure to tune in on Saturday, or actually go to the game on Saturday, and then tune in next week for some reactions from Jacob and I about this game, and of course the live stream for the Down in the Valley podcast. Um, as always, be sure to follow us on all of our social media. You guys know them. Jacob, thank you so much for coming around and hosting again. We'll see each other next week. Y'all take care. Bye.
All right. Show. Yep. Yep.